I truly believe that it is individuals who understand this space, that are from the Midwest, who grew up in food and agriculture, who are absolutely needed and must have a seat at the table when it comes to solving the biggest challenges that we experience in food and agriculture.
Welcome to Building Nebraska, a podcast for dreamers and doers. We'll ignite your passion for entrepreneurship while highlighting those who turn ideas into reality. Building Nebraska is brought to you by the Angler Agribusiness Entrepreneurship Program at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. Today we are in for a real treat as we are joined by Jordyn Bader. She is a member of the founding team at Marble Technologies and currently serves as the Director of Partnerships. Jordyn, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Rebel. Looking forward to being here today.
So before we dive into your personal journey, give us a high-level overview of what you do at Marble Technologies and some of the things that you offer.
Yeah, sure. Well, Marble Technologies is an automation and robotics company. We leverage the power of artificial intelligence and machine learning to develop automated systems for the meat processing industry. So a little bit about what I do. In my role, I work closely with our customers. We primarily work with beef and pork processing facilities to bring them advanced automated systems in their facilities. So in my role, I work closely with our customers to communicate between kind of their needs from the point of sale to implementation and then beyond, to make sure that we're continuing to bring value to our customers and over time kind of understand and better learn their needs and continue to grow our business.
Absolutely. Well, we're excited to dive into your specific product offerings and the technology that you're developing, but I'd love to learn just a little bit more about you personally. How did you find your way to the ag tech space and sort of find your home here?
Yeah, sure. So I grew up in production agriculture. My hometown is in north central Nebraska. My family has a cow-calf operation. Came to the university and studied ag economics for both my bachelor's and master's degree. Kind of my first introduction to the technology space was first job out of college, worked for a software company called Grainbridge. And Grainbridge developed a risk management software technology for farmers and ranchers to manage things like their marketing, their budget, crop insurance, and so forth. So during my time there, initially I started managing an outreach program for them to help teach and educate students about risk management principles, both at the high school and collegiate level. And over time transitioned into more of like a product management type role to help provide vision and direction in creating value for farmers and ranchers through that software application. So that was really my introduction into working at the intersection of agriculture and technology. And what I found is I really enjoyed that space, being able to be the voice of farmers and ranchers to help inform and guide technology that could help make their operations more efficient or more profitable. So had a really great opportunity and experience there. Grainbridge went on to be acquired as a joint venture while I was there between Cargill and ADM. So very cool from an entrepreneurial standpoint. First job in my career to really see a successful exit from a startup. Learned a great deal through that, and most importantly, I met some phenomenal colleagues and coworkers who actually are now part of the Marble team. So after that acquisition took place, it was around 2020 where there was a number of us who had worked together at that technology company who were really looking for where are there more opportunities for technology to bring value to agriculture or food. And so, of course, at that time was the peak and start of the COVID pandemic, and there were supply chain disruptions taking place, particularly in the meat supply chain. So around that time, we were really curious and interested to just understand what was causing these breakdowns, and so we just got on the phone and started talking to people in the animal protein segment to better understand this. And actually, Tom Field, director of the Angler program, is the one who really pointed us in this direction of, there is a need for robotics, there is a need for automation in primary meat processing. If there's interest or anything that you can do there, now would be a good time to look into this segment. So that's really what was the thesis for Marble when we initially got started. So our Marble's president and CEO, Jordyn Bader, he actually has a technology background. So he's been critical in leading our team kind of from the early days and beginning to helping to identify these problems and make the connection between this really high need in this industry of bringing more advanced automation to help alleviate the need for very manual, highly labor-intensive work, and bringing that technology background and individuals with skills in that space. So very early on, we really just started talking to as many people as we knew in this industry to just understand the problem. And one thing I think that's unique about Marble really early on is we were a problems first company. It took us a while to come around to like, what's our first product, what's a solution. We wanted to make sure that we understood challenges that our customer was experiencing, and understand their pain points before we ever came back with, this is how we think that we can solve it. So that's a little bit about the company. Over time, we continue to get warm introductions. We're able to tour meat processing facilities at a time where it was very difficult to get inside, and we just were received with, I think, very warm receptions from the industry because of the background and the team that we've been able to assemble to help bring highly advanced automated systems to meat processing.
Mm-hmm. So you have this brilliant circle of colleagues. You've identified a need or a problem. From that point, how did you go about product development, testing, that sort of stuff?
Sure. Yeah, so it was actually our customers who really guided us to what is now our first commercialized product. So the first commercialized system Marble has developed is called Marble Pack-Off. And what it does, it automates a process of identifying vacuum sealed large pieces of meat. Think of what you might find at like a Costco or a Sam's Club, and collects data or information about that individual piece of meat and then sorts it. It's a little bit like an Amazon distribution center for meat products. So our customers actually pointed us to this particular area. The status quo, if you were to walk into a meat processing facility today, you'd see 30 plus people who stand next to a conveyor, and their job is to look for an unidentified piece of meat. Maybe I'm packing briskets and you're packing strip loins. So we sit there, we wait for a brisket to come by, we grab it and we place it into a box. Once there's enough pieces in there, we'll slap a label on it and we send it on its way. So these are unlabeled pieces. They're trained to recognize these, but they do that hard work day in and day out. So what our system does is we automate that process and make it more efficient. We utilize computer vision and machine learning, where we have a camera that identifies what that product is. And then based off of what that product is, we sort it to its appropriate sort lane. And in the meantime, we're capturing information like its weight, its size, length, depth, and distribution. So not only are we able to make our customers a bit more labor efficient, where they can now operate with half the folks in that department that they were previous to our technology, they're also able to upgrade that product. So one of the value propositions that we have found with our product is being able to sort heavier products more efficiently and add value to that. So their barbecue customer down the supply chain is able to order and willing to pay more for a more consistent product in that box. So that's a little bit about the first product that we have commercialized and brought to market. And it's really a result of listening to our customers and following their lead in areas where they see opportunities to make an impact in their facilities.
Yeah, well, a great case study in problem solving for sure. But going about a tech startup is certainly different than starting another sort of business. How long was it from when you had the initial idea or concept to actually having a product available to customers?
Yep, that's a great question. So officially our company was founded in 2021. So from kind of like the ideation thesis stage, less than 12 months really. From there, I would say there was some, prototyping and product development soon after that, making sure we really went out to the industry again. Before we invested a lot of money in R&D, our team was out there really pitching the concept and the idea to get feedback really early on in the process. So I think we've been extremely efficient overall on that product development cycle because we've really taken that approach to stay close to our customers, get feedback early and often from them. I would say in 2023, we've developed a great partnership with the facility here in Nebraska, and we were able to go from kind of that prototype phase to a pilot in a production facility on a production line. And that was huge for us, going from taking a technology from the lab into the real world in reality. It's you test every assumption, all the hundreds of assumptions that you make in that process. So that was invaluable for us. From that point on, about 12 months, we learned, those engineering lessons that we needed to learn of, what didn't we get right from the lab to the real world of where this technology would live. And then about 12 months later, we sold our first commercialized system. So that was about a year ago, beginning in 2024. We established our first commercialized system and have had a lot of great success and progress here in the last year.
Wow. Well, you said you received a lot of warm introductions and were well received by the industry early on. In your role as Director of Partnerships, how do you see that play out, and what advice or encouragement would you offer another entrepreneur when it comes to fostering those customer relationships?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think for us, it's just be inquisitive and recognizing that, books can teach theory really well or fundamentals, but I think in my experience, what I've come to realize and learn is that it is just asking questions and fostering relationships, making that phone call. It really is perhaps the most critical aspect. Things do not need to be perfect before you go to somebody to get that feedback. And I think what we have learned is that getting that feedback early and often can save you so much time and heartache and help you identify, am I even asking the right questions, or am I even solving a problem that's worth solving that someone is willing to pay for? So the faster that you can get to yes in terms of, will someone pay for this? Or am I solving the right problem, which is an indicator. If they're willing to pay for it, then yes, you're solving a real problem. I think the sooner that you can do that, the faster that you'll start to see success and progress within your own business.
Yeah, well, where you are at the intersection of technology and agriculture, it requires a lot of different areas of expertise. Obviously, you have that production ag background, but also requires a lot of understanding and knowledge in the technology space. How many different perspectives do you have at the table when it comes to developing this sort of service and technology?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great question. I think one point that I would want to make on this that I think is great, especially for students to hear, is you do not need to be the expert in every single domain. And this is the critical area to grow your team, and it's so important because not any one person can be the expert in every discipline or field that you need. So I think throughout the process of our company, and even very early on, kind of recognizing what is that skill set, what is that subject expertise that I need to surround myself with in order to gain trust, in order to really understand what I'm getting into. So within our company, one thing that we're really proud of, and I think has really helped us move as fast and as we have, is really surrounding ourselves with experts in engineering. So we have individuals who are machine learning, software, mechanical, electrical engineers, but we also have full-time meat scientists on staff who really understand. They've worked in these facilities, they understand what we're trying to do, they really understand our customer base. And we also have folks who have previous business entrepreneurial experiences that have led companies from idea to exit. So we've really situated or grown our team in a way to cover those key disciplines because we have there are so many phenomenal folks with great experience that have helped us get to where we are, and leaning on their expertise has been really critical for us.
Very cool. Well, now that you have a product and technology that is fully integrated and implemented in facilities,
yes.
What is the next area of key growth that you're looking towards?
Yeah. Yep. So I think continue to scale. That we're a bit, I think, on that tipping point of, okay, we found that product market fit, and we're getting good feedback there. But now I think that next mountain to climb is truly that scaling process. How do we become more efficient? How do we scale production, our team, support, and so forth? So that's one area of the business that we're looking to grow. I think the other component for us, too, is there is really a great opportunity in the industry that we are in because in many ways it's underserved by technology, and there are so many opportunities for technology to help move the needle. In fact, it's often one of the, we get this in almost every customer meeting is what are you working on next? What other areas? So that would be the other piece of it is expanding our product offering and looking at other areas of facilities where the underlying technology that we utilize can help move the needle and solve problems in meat processing.
Yeah. Well, in the entrepreneurship vein, your story is a little bit unique in that you were a member of a founding team as opposed to, for instance, some of our conversations yesterday were with a bakery owner who went out on her own and did those sorts of things, but you were collaborating with a team on a daily basis. How important is it to select good partners in this process, and what has that looked like for you?
Yeah. Well, it's absolutely critical because of the amount of time and really the ups and downs that you go through in business, right? Of making sure that you've got folks on your team who are committed and that at the end of the day are just fun to work with. That's what I feel most, fortunate about is that we have an amazing team, and that's, I think, one of in my whole journey in my career, I have just felt extremely blessed to just have a wonderful group of people that I come to work with, and it makes experiencing those lows much easier, or challenges as they arrive when you enjoy who you work with. So it's absolutely, I think, an important part of anybody's career, whether that's in starting your own business or otherwise, is making sure that you've got to surround yourself with good people who help you learn and grow as well.
Yeah. Well, I think from a student lens, sometimes the technology sector can seem very overwhelming or intimidating, but obviously those rural voices and production agriculture perspectives are very needed in this space, as you've alluded to. What kind of encouragement would you offer to someone who's maybe intimidated by this sector in particular?
That's a great question, Rebel. I think finding opportunities to engage or understand is perhaps the first step. So you're right that I never would have imagined myself working in kind of the technology space. I wasn't necessarily sought out. I wasn't seeking to do that. It just has just evolved that way. But what I have come to learn is that I truly believe that it is individuals who understand this space, that are from the Midwest, who grew up in food and agriculture, who are absolutely needed and must have a seat at the table when it comes to solving the biggest challenges that we experience in food and agriculture. A lot of development in technology, even in food and ag, is taking place on the coast. And I think overall as an ecosystem, whether it's between, investment, innovation taking place in both the public and private sector, ought to take place here in the Midwest. I truly believe that there is no better place for a company like Marble working on technology that is serving the food and ag industry to be located than here in Nebraska, because we have individuals who understand the producer. They understand and can truly peel back the layers of what those problems are, what problems that we experience in this industry. Because it's not that to make something impactful, I think it comes down to like, am I solving the right problem? And that's really what students, I think, especially that go through the Engler program, have to bring to the table is like, I can understand the person that we are trying to help through this technology. And so I think that's one fantastic way to approach it is really understanding the persona of that end user and customer.
Yeah. Well, we were talking before we started our recording that you were one of the founding student members of the Engler program.
Yeah.
Did you ever see entrepreneurship playing out this way in your life, or what did you expect as a college student? What would college Jordyn think of Jordyn today?
Yeah. No, this is not what I would have expected or guessed 15 years ago, but it's been such a cool journey and cool ride. So yeah, I came from rural Nebraska. I was really interested in like rural economic development at the time throughout my undergrad. So certainly I have pivoted as new doors and new opportunities have been presented, but it's been a lot of fun. I will say that without a doubt, I know that I am where I am today because of the experience that I had in the Engler program. The unique approach to education and hands-on learning through that program, as well as the relationship and mentorship relationships that I found and grew there, have absolutely impacted the trajectory of my career. And so I feel just so fortunate to have been lucky enough to be part of that very first class, and now actually sit on the advisory board of the Engler program. So it's an absolute joy to continue to stay involved in that program and to see the impact that it's making within students, and then the ripple effect that that's having here in the Midwest, in Nebraska communities, and on the entrepreneurial community.
Yeah. Well, we've talked a little bit about the areas of growth that you see for the company moving forward, but in your ideal world, ideal scenario, what's next for you and what's next for the company?
Oh boy. Yeah, I mean, continued growth, right? Continuing to get that validation that what we are doing is solving real problems. So back to those pieces, being able to experience that scaling of a company. New product development, I think, is an area that we're excited about. For me personally, I think what's most critical to me is that I continue to learn and grow in the work that I do. And I often tell people I feel that I've experienced a decade of a career in 4 short years. And so I have not been let down in that respect. So I think that's always top of mind for me, is making sure that I'm learning and growing and able to give back to that next group of entrepreneurial women who are coming through the Engler program or other programs like it to just encourage others who are wanting to forge their own journey and pursue entrepreneurship.
Well, there's so many different rabbit holes we could go down, either from a personal vein, research and development, all those sorts of things. But what have we not covered that you think is impactful for our listeners to know, either about Marble or about yourself?
Oh, another great question. Overall, I think it's an exciting wave of technology here that we're just getting started on when it comes to AI and machine learning. So for any students, I know you have a big student audience here. I think don't be afraid to try something new or a new experience, whether that's maybe an internship or a work experience kind of outside of your comfort zone, whether it's industry or you mentioned like kind of feeling intimidated by technology. I think kind of exploring this path and how it can impact maybe something that you deeply care about, like an industry like agriculture, can kind of bridge between those two worlds would be one, I think, area of encouragement is be open to those new experiences where you think you might be in the future can absolutely be impacted by saying yes to something new and then having those opportunities to pivot and explore. So just encouragement for students who are early on in their careers and the openness to try something new because it can lead to some pretty cool new opportunities.
Most definitely. Well, Jordyn, thank you so much for spending some time with us today. Your story is certainly an impactful one, and I'm excited for our listeners to hear it.
Great. Thanks, Rebel. Appreciate it.
Once again, that's Jordyn Bader. She is the Director of Partnerships and a founding member of Marble Technologies. Once again, Building Nebraska is brought to you by the Angler Agribusiness Entrepreneurship Program at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. If you enjoyed this episode, feel free to share with a friend, and we'll catch you next time.